Hello everyone, thank you so much for coming on to my workshop. Today I'm going to be leading a poetry workshop, and this is part of the project called Shielding Community. I am Amina Atiq. I am a poet, performance artist, facilitator and independent producer. I work across the creative, cultural and education sector. And I am a 27-year-old woman wearing a black hijab, and I'm wearing this interesting turquoise blue jumper cardigan. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the workshop. So the first thing I'm going to share is just a little bit about my shielding experience, and this is an opportunity for you to think about your own and how was your shielding experience for you, and how did it, certain experiences that had occurred. So my shielding experience was interesting. It did not just involve me, but it also involved my whole family. So I've got a photograph, an interesting photograph of which my sister captured. So this photograph is myself in a purple dressing gown, sitting on a brown leather sofa that's sat outside the front garden. And there is a white and turquoise cover over the sofa. There's a small brown wooden table with some books on it. I'm sitting down looking at my laptop, and I'm holding a green coffee mug. And of course, if you're in Liverpool, you know exactly that. We've all got purple Liverpool City Council wheelie bins, and that's in the photograph as well. Behind me, there is a window, and there's a banner which says Happy Ramadan, because it was Ramadan at the time, or it just passed. So this picture was captured, and when I was thinking about my shielding experience, I thought I want to bring something visual to share with you, and to think about, to take me back and to think about what was shielding like. I mean, this photograph, I would never ever dare to wear a dressing gown in lockdown. But when lockdown happened, I just feel like it made us do really strange things, but also really confident things. I live on a main road, so loads of cars pass, so I would never put my dressing gown on and sit outside. But this photograph is special because it shows us that we were living at home, but also trying to work, and we were starting to feel comfortable and just to get on with life, really. So I don't want to take too much long on this point or this photograph, but I just wanted to share kind of like what was shielding like for my family and for myself. Shielding was, the good part of it was that it really brought us together as a family. We started to think about each other more, and we started to heal together, and we started to spend more time together. And that's something that I never really did prior to lockdown and shielding. But I think it started to become really apparent that, and as we say in Arabic, what you love for yourself, you love for others. And definitely, for me to look after myself, I have to look after the people around me. For people to look after themselves, they have to look after each other. And so kind of 2-3 major things that happened while we were shielding. My mother was stuck in Yemen, which is currently still going through a war. So we weren't keen with my mother going to Yemen anyway, but for her to go to Yemen and then become stuck was the first time we were really that apart from our mother. And my mother's the main caregiver to my father, but also we've got, because my father's he's autistic, also we've got a little toddler as well. So really at that point, because we knew my mother wasn't going to be there for a very long time because the airports were closed, we as a family really got together and we're like, okay, how do we really look after each other here? I think one of the hardest things that really kind of like broke the family a little bit, and we really started to think about shielding and the importance of it, was when my grandmother was put into hospital, and that really scared us. And my grandmother has like 80 grandchildren, so we're a massive family in Liverpool, and it was just it was really difficult. But also, when I called my grandmother on the phone, I remember she used words like, you know, she feels stuck, she feels lost, she feels like she's prisoned. And I know the hospital was just looking after her, but I think what she was trying to say to me is I feel lonely, and really it gave me a perspective of that shielding has a different experience for everyone across the world. And currently so many people are still shielding. So yeah, so that's my story, my experience, and obviously so many much more stories to share, but hopefully that gives you just a little bit to think about your own. But yeah, so moving on to the workshop, which links, we're starting to think about the future and what does the future look like. So this is a question I have for you. On each PowerPoint, I have like a light blue banner, and there's a heading, and there's like little graphic images. So in this PowerPoint, I've used like a cat. It's like a black and white cat looking at like a plant and is curious. And then there's the logo, DaDa logo right at the top. And this is a question that you could just think about, and you can rephrase this question how you like. So you might ask this question about, what does the future feel like? What does the future smell like? What does the future touch, like physically touch, like, yeah. So yeah, so have a little think about what does that mean. So this is a recording, so please pause the video when you're doing some of the writing, because I'm just gonna go on to the next task. But you have a little think about this, take 5-10 minutes to write things down. I've given you two options of how you can do this, okay? You can either write it down. I've written write the future. So you can either do a free writing. So free writing is pen on paper or on your laptop if you're using digital, and just type or write as much as you like. It's like a vomit onto the page. And, you know, ask yourself, what does my future look like? Okay, and think about it as like present time, just coming out. We're starting to come out of a pandemic, and we're starting to really start to come out. Some of us are still shielding, so we're going to have very different perspectives of what that looks like or feels like. So you can either write it down, okay? You can, if you like to just write. I like to write into poetry because that's where my strength is. And so if you want to go straight into a poem or you want to go straight into a script, feel free how you want to free write this. Or and you can do either. You can sketch the future. So if you're more of a visual learner and you're a good drawer, I'm a terrible drawer, but I do like to draw sometimes because I like to visually see what I want to write. So sketch the future. So you can do little doodles and kind of like a mood board of like from the beginning to the end of what that future looks like. So yeah, pause this video, have a little 5-10 minutes. Cool. And then moving on, I want you now to highlight a line and circle the sketch or image that you've brought together. The reason why I like to do this because I want to zoom in to what I've written or what I've drawn, because when we free write or we kind of just burst out loads of words, we want to kind of zoom in into what we're actually really saying. What is the core of what you want to say? Because this will really quite be interesting to see how you then structure the poem or how you start to structure your writing. So take about 5-10 minutes, highlight your favorite lines, the most interesting lines that you've written, use a different color, yeah, and or maybe circle around the sketch that you like or you want to explore that. Cool. And after you've done that, the next thing is, there's so many structures you can structure a poem in, but the one that I've chosen, which I find really fun, is a haiku. And this is a haiku to the future. And our graphic image on this presentation, I picked up a tree that's like shaped into a heart, and it's just growing. And that for me is how it feels like as an image, what that to the future looks like. However, this graphic image does not indicate that this is your future. This is just to add a little bit of kind of colour or 3D experience to the presentation. So a haiku to the future. What is a haiku? So if this is the first time you've come across a haiku is composed of 3 lines. And the first line has 5 syllables. The second line has 7. The third line has 5 syllables. So it's 5, 7, 5. And I picked up something from the internet. And this is just an example of how you can put it into words. So I'm going to read it out. So the first line, from across the lake. So that's 5 syllables, from across the lake. And then when we go on to the second line, past the black winter trees. 7 syllables. The third line is 5 syllables. So faint sound of our flute. So what I want you to think about is start to compose what you want to write into a haiku. And what I would like you to do, you can either just do literally 3 lines, but what I would like to see, if you have the time or you're really passionate about this, is maybe do 4 or 5 stanzas. So you'll do 4 or 5 haikus, okay, and separate them so that they look like 3 lines, 3 lines. Yeah, so have a little go. So just to recap what we did, okay, we looked at what does the future look like for you. So we did a bit of like, hopefully you've written some things or you thought about it. We started to write the future, so a free writing session, or you might have sketched as well, sketched some drawings or a symbol. You also highlighted a line, or you circled around as a sketch or a part of a sketch to start thinking about structuring it into a poem. And now you have a haiku to the future. Yeah, so this is my very simple workshop, something you can enjoy. And moving on, just want to say, of course, thank you so much for taking part. I hope this has been fun. Please finish your poems, submit them. I'm looking forward to reading them. And yes, so this project is part of Shielding Community, and my name is Amina Atiq. Thank you so much for taking part.